Okay, Doctor, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hammam. Welcome, guys. I'm Tom Skarpas. I'm the chair of the Civil Infrastructure and Environmental Engineering Department at KU. We are probably the department with the longest name, but we are proud for it. It also shows a very broad range of activities that we try to cover. And being a part of Khalifa, it means that we are not interested also to deliver courses. We are interested to engage our students, to engage ourselves with research, with innovation. We try to participate in the national, the international drive to do something new, something different. And that makes it exciting. You are not just learning, you are contributing to a change. And that's an advantage. I have a very small presentation just to give you an overall idea of our activities, of our goals for the bachelor's level of studies. I will not touch the other levels. Like all other internationals, or most other international programs in civil engineering, our students spend a large part of their studies acquiring solid foundations, acquiring the basis they're gonna need to use them as stepping stones for the next step. And the next step, after a good solid knowledge, is to go to some direction. It's like medicine. Not all doctors do the same. The long name of our department, Civil, Infrastructure, Environmental, shows how wide, how broad civil engineering has become. We don't deal only with the house, we don't deal only with the road, we also bring in the environment to see how the environment will affect those, or how will those affect the environment. It's a commitment, it's an obligation. We are the ones who have to somehow find the means to protect our citizens, our friends, our colleagues from the environment, whether it is heavy rain or heavy wind or floods. And at the same time, we need to use buildings which are environmentally friendly, buildings which are sustainable. They don't spend too much energy, or we find ways to borrow energy from the environment. So, but to do this, to do activities which are specific per domain of civil engineering, you need a good solid knowledge. So the majority of half the time, more or less, is spent on making sure that you have a good basis. And then, once you have this, you can go more towards design aspects. Some people can design a building, others can design a road, a dam, a river, a canal, a bridge. It's very wide, this part. But all of it is based on this, including what I said, the environmental aspects. You need to understand what atmosphere is, how it behaves, what is the wind, before you can design a building against the wind. So there's a lot of interaction. If we continue, this is an overall view of our current program. Most of you are somewhere in this domain here, but soon you start gradually acquiring more and more engineering-related courses which are, again, the foundations for more specific. So we start with some general courses on mechanics, on dynamics, on materials, civil engineering materials. Our materials quite often are very different than materials in other domains. We use concrete, we use sand, asphalt, things which you don't use when you build a plane. So you need to be comfortable in the engineering, civil engineering materials, and gradually you start going into more and more specific domains. Geotechnical engineering, how do I design a foundation? Huh? We don't design buildings that fly. We have to base them somewhere. So geotechnical engineering is an important aspect, for example. And then once you have a foundation, you must put a building on it. It can be made out of steel, it can be made out of concrete, combinations. That's what civil engineers do. This starts going into directions. And if you look at the end of our program here, you will see that we talk about technical electives. So the majority of the named courses here are core courses. You have to have them if you're going to graduate with a degree in civil engineering. But during the last semester, primarily, we give our students the chance to go in a more specific direction. We call them tracks. It's our invention. And we split our domain into two directions, if you like. And again, this is fourth year, the last semester. Of course, we don't follow it by letter. People can take, if they have space, and if there is a technical elective that is relevant, they can take it outside the fourth year or the last semester, but more or less it's there. To put emphasis on this, we have two options for our students. One looks into what most people perceive as civil engineering, which is building design, the control of a project, roads, foundations, dams, anything. These are specialization courses. The same for environmental engineering. We look into aspects of what do I do with water, how do I transport it, how do I store it, how do I design the systems for it, how do I manage the resources that I have so that I don't run dry, and of course, other aspects which relate to the atmosphere, pollution, rain, and things like this. So at the moment, we give an opportunity to our students to make one of these choices if they want to. It's not compulsory. One can take two courses from here and one from there, if that's what they want. Nevertheless, our recommendation to our students is please focus. Focus, because when you go looking for a job, it's important to be able to project an image to your interviewer. Your interviewer has no time, interest, money to re-educate their new employees. They want to hire you and immediately for you to be able to say, I can design a bridge, no problem. I can design a canal, no problem. That's what they want to hear. But for that, you need background knowledge. And having collections of relevant courses in your CV, it's one more testimony to your future employer. Yes, this guy, this person has the necessary background. Not only he or she claims that they can do it, there is a proof that they followed courses at university level, which allows them to do it. So our hope is that throughout the program, we do the best we can to help you become distinguishable, identifiable. Imagine you're going for an interview. The guy who is talking to you has to interview 10, 15, 20 candidates. You have to be able to be special. You have to project a message that, okay, this guy, this person from Khalifa is something different, something special. That's what they want, right? So we try to do this by encouraging you from beginning of the program, but gradually as it filters down to really acquire a profile, an image, something to be proud of. To do that, we have a very broad range of laboratories in which you will be engaged as a result of following the different courses. So we have laboratories which address hydraulics, environment, roads, infrastructure, geotechnical, structural. Every one of them is a laboratory. Every one of them is a huge investment from Khalifa University's point of view. I'll just show you one. This is a huge piece of equipment. Probably this distance is about 5 meters. So is this. And it's a frame, it's a construction in which you can put any object that you want to test, for example. If you have a new design, if you have a new material, a combination of design and material, a new concept, perhaps how something should operate, you must be able to test it. You must be able to have a proof to the authorities that yes, my new concept works. And we want our students to be able to design this type of testing. We want our students to have gone through the experience of seeing what it is. We don't want to produce engineers who only know how to design, how to make something, but engineers who understand how things fail as well. And it's very important because if you don't understand how something fails, you can never replace it, you can never repair it. And you know, earthquakes happen, tsunamis, settlements, they do damage our structures. And it's important for an engineer to be able to look at the damaged structure and say, okay, I understand what's wrong, I'm going to fix it. Exactly, or similar to what doctors do. Quite often, things get old, they need a repair. And you have to have that experience of how important is the damage. Huh? Is it to be repaired or should I demolish it? Is it safe to repair or should I demolish it? You can only have this if you have seen it in reality, if you have felt it in reality. Yeah? And that's the meaning of having all these laboratories at your disposal via coursework to familiarize you with the real world. We don't want you to end up just doing what I would call blue skies designs. This is good, but the customer does not pay for a design. The customer pays when you deliver a building, a house, a road, an airport, right? So you have to have this experience. You have to have seen the real thing, not just books on mathematics and physics. So all our courses in combination with our labs are meant primarily to give you the opportunity to gradually fit into the profession. A profession which, luckily, in the United Arab Emirates, is one of the musts, it's one of the needs. You realize, guys, that the reason civil engineering is called civil engineering is because without it, it's very difficult to have a civilized society. You can be any type of engineer, but unless if you have a roof over your head, unless if you have a house to live on, a laboratory, what can you do? And to do this, you need civil engineers. We are building the world. And in a harsh environment, yeah, you need engineers who can protect those who live there, make life livable. That's what civil engineers do. So this brings me to the end of this introduction. I don't know if there are any questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Doctor. This was really interesting. Students, if you have questions, you can open the mic and talk. If not, you're more than welcome to type it down in the chat. So So please ask as many questions as you can. So I will start, Doctor, regarding, I know that we have talked a little bit about the employment for this kind of major, this kind of field, but I want to focus more on it. What kind of employment opportunities that usually are open for a fresh graduate in this field?
Correct. That's a very good question. In UAE, we have three types of possible employers. One is the government. Infrastructure belongs to the government. Roads, airports, ports, tunnels, anything. Yeah? So the government are hiring engineers, civil engineers to design, to maintain this type of structures. Then there is the private industry, very large scale, primarily international companies, Acom, Parsons, others, who focus on large scale or small scale, but private initiatives, like a mall, for example, or like a stadium if it's private, or houses, skyscrapers or high-rise houses.
Okay.
And the last, of course, is the academia. If our students are interested not to stop at the bachelor's level, but they want to continue for master's or PhD, then the local academia, the local universities, and there are several here, is another market. All of them are in desperate need of people. All of them are in desperate need of people who can do the job. Because what I said before, you can do without many other types of facilities or engineering facilities, but everybody needs a house. Everybody needs shelter, office, labs, right? So if you look around, the sky in Abu Dhabi, the first thing you notice is what?
Towers.
Cranes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the type of job opportunities.
All right. And what minors are there with this field? What do you recommend students should go for minors? Choose minors.
We call them. That's what I saw in the screen here. We call them tracks, and primarily it is two. You can call them minors, just a word. Two specializations, if you like, at undergraduate level. One is the infrastructural engineering. So these are the engineers who sort of design the built environment.
Yeah.
The other one is environmental engineering. Engineers who try to understand the environment, its influence on human life. How do we control it? How many air conditioners do we need in a house?
That's true.
How much electricity is that house requiring? So these are the type of activities that those two lead to, both of which still address the three main job opportunities: government, private sector, universities.
Great. And what do I need to think about before choosing which specialty I should go for?
Well, I think we expect our students, having gone through this part, the main part of our program, that's almost 3 years of courses. By the time they get to their last year, it is for them to really decide what they feel more comfortable with. Do they want to design a bridge, or do they want to design a canal or a beach or a port? Then you can choose depending on your likes and dislikes after 3.5 years. When you get to this point, indeed, you have to decide, okay, well, now I want to go in this direction. I want to look into water resources. I want to see how can I improve the water, this type of things. The environment, how much rain will it be, how much cold in this domain, the environmental. The infrastructural is the other, what I said, houses, buildings,
Yeah.
etc. But it comes to the talent, to the personal choices of a civil engineering student, who after 3.5 years, they know what they like and what they don't.
Great. And do you have extra activities, extracurricular activities or competition that you participate in? Like if I want to
Yes.
improve my skills in other areas to improve my CV, do you have events
Yes.
or activities related to this?
Correct. The university, and therefore civil engineering, participates in the upcoming decathlon competition. This is an international competition, but this year in 2021 will be held in Dubai. And what we do really is our students have to design a real villa, which will be built near the Expo 2020 exhibition space. So teams of students at the moment work with faculty to design such a house which will be actually built, and the students, of course, will participate in the building process in Dubai. And it's not only civil engineering students. A house needs electronics, for example. A house needs a lot of mechanical facilities. So we have teams from mechanical, electrical, civil, engineering, industrial, participating into an innovative design. At the same time, and that's an advantage, we have brought in both government and industry as advisors. So we have Musanada. Musanada is a state company. It is the company that somehow takes over the construction, the building of state-owned facilities. It's very big. But we also have brought in industry. We have AECOM, for example. So we have engineers from AECOM, which is a commercial. It's a very large American commercial company. They come in to interact with our students, giving advice to their design, correcting any mistakes we make, things like this. So by the time our students graduate, they have already met a significant portion of the government entities, but also the private industry. And it's up to them and the relation they build with those entities, how to proceed in the future. If you look at some of our recent graduates, after their senior design project, which the students know it is really this initiative here, where a team of students work for a whole year on a design. The villa in Dubai is part of senior design project. And that means that they had a chance to interact with the real world, and it's up to them what relation they're going to build with people from the industry, the government, for the possibility of joining them in the future. I think it's the best opportunity for a young graduate to build a relation with an engineer from a big company.
Absolutely, yes.
Because then when employment time comes, they have somebody who can say, yes, I worked with Mariam, I worked with Fatima, and they're good. Yeah, I want them. It's building relations.
Speaking about building up relations with employers, what are the companies that usually offer internships for our students?
It's a very broad range. Again,
we
start from government. As I said, Musanada is one of them. There is the Abu Dhabi municipality. They have been interacting with us for a long time. They are among the first to consider giving internships to our students. The Abu Dhabi Housing Authority, it's another authority, and they are also state, so they're very accommodating. And of course, the industry. The industry comes in different sizes,
Yes.
depending on our student needs. Also, we had cases, we stopped it because of the COVID, but it will open again, cases of students going overseas to do their internship.
International. We actually are still doing that, doctor, but depends now. I'm not sure if civil is one of the opportunities, but it's still open depending on the country and the company that actually offers the internship.
Exactly. We had made, before COVID, we had made arrangements with a very well-known Dutch company, for example, to accept our students. And unfortunately, then things happened and we decided not to do it, But some of these opportunities changed to internships, virtual internships.
Yeah.
Many students, I think correctly, chose to postpone their internship until a time when they can do it on site. I think it's an advantage for any student to come into close interaction with the real world, with real engineers. Internship is meant to do this, but we also use the senior design projects as an extra opportunity, a longer lasting opportunity to develop these relations, The internship may be interesting, but it's only a few months. The senior design project's a whole year, and that allows you a lot of time. On good times, we used to use the big room we have on the third floor of the College of Engineering to gather not only our SDP project students, but what I said, our external partners, and it would be a meeting of 50 people, literally. Well, nowadays we do the same, but we reduce down the numbers and we do it virtually. But what I said, Hammam, our goal is to make sure that we increase the hiring opportunity for our students. We see it as a failure if we cannot provide job opportunities to the students, especially at the bachelor's level.
Yes.
So anything we can to somehow, what I said before, help them to create a profile to be identifiable among other candidates, we try. We are also members of the American Society of Civil Engineers. We have our own chapter at Khalifa University. American Society of Civil Engineers is a very large organization. It says American, but they're everywhere. And that allows also interaction at different levels. They organize competitions, they organize other events where our students participate. We have a chapter, which means it's an independent students group. They have their own meetings. They invite people from industry as guest speakers. We organize trips on the past, at least, to industry via the American Society of Civil Engineers chapter. It's a professional organization. And that for our students, it's an opportunity to already step into an international professional organization in the hope that they can stay, that they can see the benefits of being a member of a group. We want them to stay engaged. We want them to stay in groups, not just individuals.
Correct.
And that's the society offers at least that opportunity. I think it's important for our students to realize that the more interconnected they are, the better their prospects. It's a humble realization that nobody can do everything on their own. But sometimes out of these organizations, you hear somebody says, oh, I heard there is this new type of concrete and it is very good and very cheap. That's what your employer wants you to tell him. He cannot do everything. He relies on you to hear something and go back to your company and say, guys, let's look into this. It may be good. So taking initiative is a good aspect of some of these professional career.
That's 100% true.
Also, we spend a lot of time making sure that our students become very familiar with the tools that the profession is using, whether
like
they
what
are,
tools?
well, it could be software. Most of the engineering designs nowadays are done with very sophisticated software, and we engage this type of software into our courses. But also, as I said before, we don't get paid just to do designs in engineering. We get paid to do real things. So having the student who has seen how you break something, how you test something in a lab, it opens up the opportunity to do the same test in the company's laboratory for the company's purposes. How do you really make a steel connection? How do you really make a concrete beam? It's important that people feel familiar with. Otherwise, you go to a construction site and you don't understand what the workers are doing.
That's right.
So that's the need to have both good laboratories which can show to the students the topics of their profession, laboratories which can provide an expertise, if you like, because at the end of the day, yeah, there are technicians, but the students are expected to participate and to do what the technician or the instructor tells them to do in the lab. And software, which is also, as I said, very important. We use the same software that the majority of the sector are using, and that is an extra advantage. Our students can go to their future employer and say, oh, I know how to use this, I know how to use that. And that's an advantage. As I said, employers have no time to train a young engineer into learning software.
See, when I'm dealing with employers a lot, I get so many positive feedbacks about our students and about how skillful they are. Now, students, Fatima, and guys, you are coming up with one of the most important decisions in your mind, in your life. So I need you to ask questions about it. If you have any question to Dr. Tom, please feel free to type it down in the chat. Do you have any question about civil engineering, about registering for the course? I'm sure you do. You can also open the mic and talk if you want.
Of course. Well, I have a question for them, actually. Do you guys like breaking things? Like what we do in this screen here?
I like breaking, then making them again.
Okay, so you break a lot of plates at home, huh?
What?
So
you
you break
a
plates
lot
at
of
home?
glasses and plates at home, right? And then you glue them back together.
Yes, sometimes.
Good. Yeah, you're like
Yes,
me.
sometimes I take apart like machines and like try to put them together and see if they work again.
Right, right. Yes, it happens to me. Anybody else who likes breaking things in the lab or at home or in the kitchen?
Well, I usually break, but I go buy something else, buy something new. So I don't think this is my area.
That's a good excuse to buy something new, huh?
That's
Oh,
true.
oops, I broke my old one.
Yes.
That works. Yeah. Once I had a teacher, guys, and he used to say, it is my job not only to teach you how to build a building, but how to demolish it as well.
Yes.
And he was absolutely right. If you see the difficulty that profession has to remove an existing building, you saw how we demolished the old constructions in the MENA region, right?
Yes, yes.
You use literally explosives, but then you must make sure that the building comes down vertically. It doesn't go to visit your neighbor.
Yes.
And that takes a lot of expertise, a lot of calculations, but that's what civil engineers do. We can build and we can demolish.
That's true. So students, have you made up your minds that you want to do civil engineering, or you're still considering other majors?
Doctor?
I just came here to see maybe I'll change my mind because I have something set, but I don't know if I'll continue with it.
So do you have like something that is confusing in your mind, or a question that you want to ask Dr. Tom about it regarding this that will help you make up your mind?
Doctor?
Yes.
Does it involve chemistry?
Excuse me?
Does civil involve chemistry, doctor? This is a
Well,
good
it
question.
does. Yes, it does, because my slogan, and it's only mine, is that mechanics is chemistry. To make concrete, you need materials. And the materials that you put together, they have to like each other. Otherwise, you cannot make concrete. To make asphalt, you need a lot of different materials, and they have to like each other. To produce a new type of asphalt, you need chemistry. Otherwise, it won't work. So we are not chemists, but our association with chemical engineers, primarily, is very intense indeed. And it's up to us, to our students, how deep they want to go into the chemistry aspects. Because at the end of the day, we need the chemical engineers to really come up with the composition of the material. And then as civil engineers, we'll take it in our lab, we'll break it, we'll squeeze it, we'll test it. So we have a good interaction. We call it this interaction between chemistry and material science, I call it chemomechanics. And the slogan there is that it is the chemistry that controls the strength, the stiffness, right? At the end of the day, everything goes down to molecular level. And a chemist is good in telling us that. Do I have to understand all of it? No. But I have to be able to communicate with him. We have to be able to explain my hopes, my demands, and then interact with them, with the chemical engineers, the chemists, the chemical engineering industry, which is very large, for them to make the product that I want to use, a product that is stiff, durable, doesn't age, whatever. So yes, it is an asset for those who don't want to just focus on the civil engineering aspect of materials, but who want to go one step earlier and look at why is this so good? What makes it so good? It is the chemistry. So yes, we have this interaction.
Doctor, I'd like to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go like more into depth of the environmental engineering.
Right.
Is the environmental engineering somehow like in some points it's related to like the sustainable sources and all of these things, or it's not related?
Correct. Look at the green slot there on the screen. It talks about water. For UAE, water has to be one of the most sustainable quantities. There, controlling pollution is also part of sustainability. That's why we call it environmental engineering. And if you look at our program, there are more courses. This is just last year courses, which really focus you. Sustainability is really, how can I say, the goal of all civil engineering work. But when you start looking at scarcity of available materials, and water is one of them, then certainly it becomes more relevant. Also, if you look at our master's program, you will see that our master's program on environmental engineering, we share with the chemical engineering department. For that reason, we want to be able not to just collect the water, we want to be able to treat it. To treat the water, you need a civil engineering design water treatment plant, right? You need a lot of civil engineering here to collect the water, whether you drill it or you collect it from rain or whatever. And then once you have it, you must still clean it, you must channel it to where it's needed or store it, things like this. So water treatment technologies look at chemical, mechanical, other means filtering techniques, if you like, which you have to design to treat the water. Water resources management means, where do I find it? Now that I know that there is a reservoir of water 1 kilometer deep, how do I get it up? Now that I have it, where do I store it? Where, before I treat it, right? The same for air pollution. We need air conditioners in a big building. We need ways to reduce the exhaust fumes from our facilities in a building. So all of these are what we call environmental engineering. And these are just small collections, I was running out of screen here, of topics which are relevant. And yes, as I said, this part is even more related to chemical engineering. The difference is that we are the ones who, at the end of the day, have to implement the chemical engineering solution. The chemical engineer can say, I want a big pool with filters and compressing units and this and that to drive the water through the filter. But that's not what chemical engineers design. You design it. It's a civil. But we have to know what their expectations are, right? So it's like electrical engineering. As civil engineers, you will design a house, but you have to make allowances for the electrical engineer to put some lights on. You don't want to live in darkness, right? So there is a lot of overlap, and I would call it multidisciplinarity. That's an advantage of civil engineering. We discussed at the beginning today. We go everywhere. We go to civil, we go to infrastructure, we go to environment, and they are interacting. Think of coastal waves. You have waves hitting the coast. You cannot just do nothing about it. You need a civil engineer to design something, whether it's a retaining wall or a collection of rocks or something, to protect what's behind. Otherwise, what's the point of designing, building expensive buildings if the first wind can flood them? So flood control, which is a topic that is relevant to UAE. You remember what happened a few months, about a year back in a lane in other cities, where the sea came out to see the residents. We do this. We have to do this. So if you think of ports, we need ports for commerce, but you need a civil engineer to design that. You need nuclear reactors. Think of nuclear reactors. Who do you think is designing a nuclear reactor, really? It's you. Yes, the mechanical engineer will design the real reactor, but the reactor doesn't live out there in the fields. It's in a big containment vessel, a very complicated, very strong vessel, which you design. To go to the nearby islands, how do you do it? You do it. You design bridges or tunnels. There's a big tunnel now being designed in Rim. So it's a very broad profession. And because these are very big projects, they need a lot of engineers. And remember, let's face it, The UAE have become known. When tourists come to UAE, why do they come? They come to see the UAE. They come to see the skyscrapers. They come to see the amazing constructions that we have here, which hardly exist anywhere else. So they come to see what civil engineers do. And luckily, we said it, if you look around, the sky is full of cranes. But that means that there is a demand for housing. There is this very well-written document, the Abu Dhabi plans for up to 2030. And if you read it, they explain how they expect many more people to join because of the industry needs. But these people will need shelter, will need malls, will need an airport to arrive, ports to bring the goods, clean air, water, more water. You will have to do this. So, yeah, that's our relation with chemistry.
Thank you very much, Doctor. This was really interesting, and hopefully the student benefited from it, and they can make up their mind about choosing civil engineer or any other major. We'll end it up here. And students, if you have any questions, you can see my email on this chat or Dr. Tom's email.
Certainly.
You can send us an email at any time.
Certainly. Good.
Right?
Thank you
very
all.
much,
Thank you,
everyone.
Hammam, for the help.
Thank you.
We hope we can do the best for our students.
Absolutely.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
You too, Doctor.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.